Discover how a single heartwarming act of kindness transformed his life in 30 days. David sat alone in his dimly lit kitchen, the flicker of a dying bulb casting long shadows on the walls. Just a month ago, he was proud, standing tall as a single father and a dedicated veteran. Now, faced with the reality of unemployment and looming bills, the weight of despair crushed his spirit. His daughter, Sarah, peeked through the doorway, her eyes filled with worry. They'd been so close once, sharing dreams and laughter over dinner, but now, silence spilled over their table like an unwanted guest. The tension hung thick enough to cut with his old soldier-esque knife. Outside, the bustling suburb of Chicago buzzed with life, yet David felt trapped in a storm of isolation. Unable to provide, he felt like a soldier without a mission. He had fought for his country, now he was fighting for his family. But each defeat pulled him further down, like a sinking ship in an unforgiving sea. Then, the night the storm hit, everything changed. Thunder cracked open the skies, as if the heavens themselves were crying out for his plight. Rain pelted against the windows, winds howled like a raging beast. Trees fell, homes shook, and when the lights flickered off, darkness engulfed the landscape. Panic filled the air, but in that chaos, something miraculous happened. The following day, amidst the debris, David noticed neighbors gathering. They stood together, arms around each other, lending hands to clear the streets. A sense of community blossomed where despair had almost taken root. Mrs. Thompson, the sweet old lady known for her legendary pies, called out with a warm smile, "Let us have a dinner tonight. Everyone is welcome." Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the sun dipped, casting a golden glow on the suburb, David and Sarah found their way to Mrs. Thompson's warm home. Laughter and the aroma of delicious food filled the air. Around the table, neighbors shared stories, and slowly, David felt the heaviness in his heart begin to lift. Laughter echoed, and for a moment, the struggles faded into the background, but just as the evening shimmered with hope, David's heart sank deeply when he learned from a whispering friend of his, "Did you know Sarah's thinking about leaving school? She wants to help out." The words hit him like a jagged rock. Panic seized him. This wasn't the future he envisioned for his daughter. His dreams for her felt like they were slipping through his fingers like sand. As he stood on his front porch later that night, watching neighbors rally together to help each other, he felt a flicker of hope, yet fear crept back in. How could he take care of her dreams when everything felt so broken? The weight of that night lingered, heavy in the air. Would he be able to pull them both back from the brink, or would the struggles they faced forever alter the path ahead? The next morning, David woke to the soft, golden light filtering through the kitchen window. The warmth felt foreign, as though the sun was trying to reach out and remind him that hope still existed. He rubbed his eyes and sat up, the weight on his chest sitting heavily, just as it had the night before. He was determined to change things, for Sarah's sake. He brewed coffee and made a simple breakfast. The scent of eggs and toast wafted through the air, catching Sarah's attention. She shuffled in, her hair still messy from sleep, but her eyes had that spark. For a fleeting moment, David smiled. "Morning, superstar," he said, ruffling her hair. "Morning, Dad," she replied, sliding into her chair. They sat together, the silence less heavy than it had been. He took a breath and decided to broach the topic that was clinging tightly in his mind. "Hey, about what I heard last night," David started, watching her expression carefully. "You really want to leave school?" Sarah looked down at her plate, pushing the yolk of her egg with her fork. "I just thought maybe I could help out more," she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. David felt the sting of tears gather just behind his eyes. "You don't need to worry about that. I want you to focus on school," he said, his voice firm yet tender. Your education is important. It's more important than worrying about money right now. I know, she said, glancing up. But what if it takes too long for you to find a job? I just want to make sure we're okay. He pulled back, recoiling at the sight of her unshed tears. Sarah, he said softly, we will be okay. It'll take time, but I promise you will find a way through this together. She hesitated for a moment, then offered a half-hearted smile. Okay, Dad. I just worry what if you can't? David felt the weight of that question settle squarely on his shoulders. It was a fear he couldn't shake, but he had to put on a brave face. I will find a job. I promise, he lied, hoping his confidence would reassure her even as his heart raced with uncertainty. After breakfast, David decided to take action. He donned his jacket and slipped on his old combat boots. Today, he would visit a nearby community center that had posted several job openings. He needed to do something proactive, even if it meant stacking boxes or answering phones. He owed it to Sarah. As he stepped out into the crisp morning air, he was struck by the sight of neighbors coming together again. The community hadn't just survived the storm, they were thriving as they helped one another. David felt the warmth atmosphere, a sense of solidarity that spread through the street like an electric current. He stopped briefly, watching a few kids toss a football while adults fixed fences and gardens. An idea sparked in his mind, something bigger than just finding a job for himself. Maybe he could contribute more. A chance to connect, to foster community ties that could help both him and Sarah. Suddenly, Mrs. Thompson pulled him from his thoughts. David. She called, waving him over. We're planning a community yard sale this weekend. Would you and Sarah like to join? David felt a warmth bloom in his chest. Sure. We'd love to, he replied. As he walked away from the conversation, a sense of purpose filled him. They wouldn't just survive, they would grow through this. But as he approached the community center, the looming fear of failure hovered in his mind like a storm cloud. What if he didn't manage to change anything? David stepped inside, his heart racing. Would this be the first step toward reclaiming life for him and Sarah? Would she trust him to guide them through this darkness? As he filled out applications, thoughts swirled. It was time for action, but would they be able to reshape their future together? The community center buzzed with activity, the air thick with hope and purpose. David sat at a long table, laptop in front of him, fingers hovering over the keyboard. He glanced around, absorbed by the camaraderie. It was a sight he hadn't seen in ages, people gathered to help one another, sharing laughter and stories. For a moment, it felt like a fresh start. He clicked on the job application, but his thoughts drifted to Sarah. Would she be okay while he chased these dreams? He thought back to their morning conversation. She was worried. He couldn't blame her, but he felt powerless trying to alleviate her fears when his own troubled him daily. A voice jolted him back to reality. Mind if I join you? It was Ethan, a neighbor he met during the last community cleanup. Ethan had a warm smile, a contrast to David's vulnerabilities. Of course, David replied, gesturing to the empty chair. As they shared small talk, Ethan leaned in, a spark of curiosity in his eyes. I heard you're looking for work. You've got a good brain. What about using that wisdom? Maybe help some kids with tutoring or even lead a workshop. David chuckled softly, a mix of warmth and dread. Not sure I'm up for that. I haven't exactly been a model of success lately. Ethan shrugged, leaning back in his chair. We all have our ups and downs. You'd be surprised how many people would benefit from your experience. You've got something to offer. David nodded slowly. Maybe he could do something like that, but self-doubt creeped in. What if he failed? What if trying to help others only revealed his own weaknesses? As if reading his thoughts, Ethan pushed a small flyer across the table. Here's info on the community's tutoring program. We're always looking for volunteers. Come on, give it a shot. You're not just David the jobless dad. You're David. the guy who has lived it, and can teach kids it's okay to struggle and keep trying. The challenge sparked something inside David. Could he really do that? As he studied the flyer, a warmth swelled in his chest. He imagined Sarah cheering him on. With her in mind, the urge to act became irresistible. "All right," he said, a bit more confident. "I'll give it a shot. Maybe I can start small." Ethan grinned. "That's the spirit. You'd be great at it. Just remember, helping out is not just about giving back. It's about connecting. You never know what opportunities might come knocking because of it." The conversation lingered as they discussed how to reach more kids, their shared ideas buzzing around like fireflies. David felt lighter, his heart racing not out of fear, but out of possibility. After they parted, David took a deep breath, allowing the energy of connection to seep into him. He had a path, however uncertain, and he wanted to take that first step. Later that evening, he returned home, exhausted but fueled with hope. Sarah was curled up on the couch, a book in her lap. She looked up and smiled when he walked in. "Hey, Dad. Did you find anything?" He hesitated, the weight of truth looming. "I did. I think I might help out at the community center." Sarah's eyes lit up. "That's awesome. You always help me with my homework. You'd be great at it." David chuckled, feeling that weight lift just a little more. "Well, the help really will go both ways. I think it could be good for both of us." As they settled down for dinner, something shifted in the air, a flicker of hope, a bridge back to each other amidst their own fears. They were not alone. Yet, as he tucked Sarah into bed later, an unsettling thought crept in. What if the connection he was trying to forge for them was just another step toward disappointment? But he shook it off. Tomorrow would be the day he confronted those doubts. And just as he lay down to sleep, the phone rang, jolting him upright. A number he didn't recognize. With shaky fingers, he answered, unaware that the conversation would change everything. David's heart raced as he brought the phone to his ear. "Hello." His voice was barely a whisper, the room suddenly feeling too quiet, too overwhelming. "Hi, is this David?" The voice on the other end was bright and warm, like sunshine spilling through the window. It was a stark contrast to the storm brewing in David's mind. "Yes, this is me," he replied, a cautious edge creeping into his tone. "David, this is Lisa from the community center. I saw your application for the tutoring program. I'm so glad you reached out. We need passionate people like you." He swallowed hard, surprised that he made it this far. Thanks. I just thought maybe I could help. Honestly, I think you could make a huge difference. We have a group of kids that really need guidance. Can you come in tomorrow for a short meeting? We'll go over everything and get you started." David's mind swirled. Was he ready for this? Tomorrow? Yes. It would be great to meet you in person. I know you'll be perfect for this role. Just imagine how many kids you could inspire. A wave of excitement washed over him, but doubt quickly followed. "I haven't taught anyone before, Lisa. What if I mess it up?" "David, you won T. Just by being there, sharing your story, you'll show them they're not alone. That's what makes a real impact. Trust me, you got this." The encouragement lit a spark in him. He found himself smiling, the darkness of uncertainty easing just a little. "Okay. I'll be there." "Wonderful. The meeting starts at 10 a.m. I'll forward you the details. Bring your energy and ideas. See you soon." Before he could respond, the line went dead. He sat there, the phone still pressed to his ear, a flicker of anticipation coursing through him. Tomorrow held potential, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this could be a turning point. That he turned off the light and lay back down, his mind swirling with images of kids laughing, learning, and growing. The worries about disappointing Sarah faded for now. Instead, a new determination took root. When morning arrived, David felt the weight of the world crash back as he got ready. Butterflies danced in his stomach. What would the kids think? Could he handle this unexpected responsibility? They deserved someone who could guide them, not someone still trying to find his own way. As he stepped outside, the crisp air invigorated him. Each breath felt like a promise of possibility. He arrived at the community center, the familiar buzz of voices and laughter wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. The place was alive. Inside, Lisa greeted him with a warm smile that instantly made him feel welcome. "So glad you could make it. Let us get started." They moved to a meeting room where several faces turned to him, curious eyes filled with expectation. David's heart raced, but he stood taller, ready to share his story. "Look," he began, feeling the nerves settle slightly, "I might not have all the answers, but I'm here because I believe we can all learn from each other." His words hung in the air, connecting with the kids before him. He sensed their uncertainty, their eagerness, just as he had felt last night. Once the meeting wrapped, a boy with wild curls approached him. "Are you really going to help us?" David knelt to the boy's level, searching for the right words. "I'm going to give it my best shot. But I expect a lot from you too, like asking questions and not giving up, okay?" The boy nodded earnestly, a spark igniting behind his eyes. "Deal." As the meeting ended, David felt a weight lift from his shoulders, replaced with hope, excitement, and something new, a sense of belonging. Just as he was about to leave, he turned to Lisa. "Thanks for believing in me. I really needed this. That's how this community works, David. We lift each other up. And don't fret, you're going to do amazing things here." Walking home, David replayed the responses in his mind, but something tugged at his heart. Had he overlooked something deeper? A chance meeting wasn't just a new beginning, it felt like an unexpected lifeline. As he entered his quiet home, Sarah came bounding down the hall. "How was it, Dad?" His smile widened. "Honestly, I think it was the start of something great." Yet, amidst the warmth of their connection, David couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of the storm he hadn't yet anticipated. What challenges awaited him now that he was stepping firmly into a role he had once feared? The door of opportunity opened further, yet shadows loomed in the corners of his heart, whispering reminders of the struggles that lingered. Would he be able to overcome them? Only time would tell. The following day passed in a blur. David could hardly focus at work, anticipation building with every passing hour. Thoughts of the tutoring program danced around in his head, mingling with worries about his ability to truly make a difference. After a long day, he finally arrived at the community center again, eager but nervous. As he approached the meeting room, he noticed the kids already buzzing with energy. They were spread out across the tables, some focused on homework while others chatted amongst themselves. The air crackled with potential. David stepped inside, and as soon as the kids spotted him, their eyes lit up with curiosity. The boy from yesterday, still sporting wild curls, waved enthusiastically. "You're back." David chuckled, feeling warmth spread through him. "Of course. I wouldn't miss it." Lisa was already there, clapping her hands to grab everyone's attention. "All right, everyone. I'd like you to meet David, our new tutor. He has some great ideas to help you all." The laughter and chatter faded, replaced by eager faces turned toward him. It was a moment of truth. He stood a little straighter and forced a smile. "Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I want to help you find ways to not only learn but also to enjoy learning." A girl with a bright pink headband raised her hand. "What do you even know about school? Don't you have a real job?" Her challenge stung, but her sincerity caught him off guard. He took a breath, feeling the tension in the room. He wasn't there to defend himself, he was there to connect. "That's a fair question. I've been through school just like you. I didn't always love it, but I learned some important things along the way." And honestly, I'm still learning, every day. A boy in the back crossed his arms, skepticism etched on his face. Just because you're here doesn't mean you can teach us anything. David's heart quickened. Part of him wanted to retreat, but he pushed forward. You're right. It's not just about me telling you what to do. It's about us working together. Every one of you has something valuable to contribute. As he spoke, he noticed them softening a bit, exchanging glances and whispers. They didn't know him, didn't trust him yet. Just like he had felt on the first day, unsure and hesitant. Lisa jumped in to alleviate some of the tension. Let's do something fun. David, why don't you break them into groups? Maybe start with some icebreakers. Thankful for the shift, David nodded and started pairing them off. The air in the room gradually lightened as they played simple games, and laughter soon replaced the silence. He could see the kids beginning to open up, happy faces emerging from behind walls of doubt. Amidst the games, David spotted the girl with the pink headband. She had cracked a smile, and for the first time, he felt a sense of achievement blooming in his chest. Maybe he could actually do this. As the session wrapped up, David felt something unexpected, a sense of belonging. The kids gathered their things, their chatter lively as they shared stories from the day. The boy with wild curls approached him again. Can you come back tomorrow? Absolutely, David responded, the smile on his face genuine, but as David walked home, a nagging doubt returned. Would tomorrow be enough? He had connected with the kids, yes, but would they truly believe in him as their guide? Back in the quiet of his home, Sarah looked up from the couch, eyes sparkling. Did you have fun? Yes, I did. It was better than I thought, he admitted, but the buzz of excitement was overshadowed by uncertainty. He realized that this journey wasn't just about finding purpose. It was about earning trust, and that process would be challenging. Would he be able to rise to the occasion, or would he fall short of their expectations? Just then, his phone rang, jolting him from his thoughts. It was Lisa. Hey, David. Are you free to chat? I need to discuss something important. In that moment, David felt his heart race again. What could it be? Was it good? Or was it the weight of responsibility he feared? As he answered, a question loomed large in his mind. What awaited him on this endless journey of discovery, growth, and maybe, just maybe, redemption? David's heart thumped loudly as he answered the phone, uncertainty swirling around him. Hey, Lisa. What's up? Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to share some feedback from the session today, she began, her voice bright but laced with a hint of gravity. Oh, sure. I'm all ears, he said, nervously running a hand through his hair. Had he messed up somehow? First off, the kids really responded to you. They loved your icebreakers. There was more laughter tonight than I've seen in weeks. But she hesitated. His stomach twisted. But? Her words came slowly, like she was choosing them carefully. A few kids are shy about asking for help. We might want to think about a way to make sure everyone feels comfortable. I think there's some fear of being judged. David paused, contemplating her words. I didn't realize that. I thought they were all just having fun. He felt a pang of guilt. It was clear that breaking through those invisible barriers would take more than just games. Exactly. That's why I called. We might need to introduce some gentle topics where we can talk about feelings. Maybe even go into small discussions about challenges they face. Nodding absently, David replied, that sounds great. But how do I do that? I can help you with that. Let's plan something together for tomorrow. It can be like an open forum. Trust me, they'll surprise you. Lisa's enthusiasm sparked a flicker of hope in him. Alright, I'm in, he said, determination creeping into his voice. They spoke for a few more minutes about logistics, tossing ideas back and forth like a lively game of catch. There was excitement in planning, and before he knew it, David found himself smiling. As he hung up, he felt lighter. Tonight wasn't just about laughter, it was the first step to building deeper connections. Maybe that anchor of trust he was worried about wasn't so far from his grasp. More than anything else, he wanted the kids to feel safe. They deserved a space where they could voice their struggles without fear. The next day, he arrived at the community center with a spark of energy. He entered the room filled with optimism, even as nerves flickered in the pit of his stomach. There was a new element to consider: vulnerable conversations. He realized that it wasn't all about imparting knowledge, sometimes, it was about listening. Huddled on the floor, kids were swapping stories, their laughter echoing around him. They became quiet as he stepped in, eyes curious. "Hey everyone," he called, trying to mirror their enthusiasm. "Today, I thought we could dive into something a little different. Let's talk about challenges we face. I'll start if you'd like." He saw a few wide eyes, some nods, and a furrowed brow from the girl in the pink headband. David took a deep breath. "Sometimes, I feel overwhelmed at work. Like I don't always know the right thing to do. But I know it helps when I can talk about it." The silence rang heavy for a moment, almost palpable. Then the girl raised her hand cautiously. "I feel that way too about math." "Yeah," chimed in another boy. "I get so lost in the problems." And just like that, a wave of relief washed over David. They were opening up. The atmosphere shifted, barriers began to dissolve. As they unfolded their feelings about school, a place that often felt daunting, David realized this was the breakthrough he hoped for. The room filled with murmurs and shared experiences. It was far more than him teaching, it was a group coming together, bridging the gaps with understanding. As the meeting came to a close, he felt triumph swell within him. He had helped them take a crucial step toward learning not just about subjects, but about trusting one another and themselves. However, as he left the community center, a shadow of concern knitted itself in the back of his mind. What if tomorrow, they faced even deeper issues? Were there more barriers they didn't know how to voice? Just then, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from Lisa, seeing a huge shift in the kids. "Let's keep this momentum going." David's heart raced as he considered how to dive even deeper into trust, into transformation. But was he prepared for the truths beneath the surface? David couldn't shake the feeling as he walked home that evening. The high from the day's session buzzed through him, but alongside it was the weight of uncertainty. What other worries did these kids carry? What secrets were they too afraid to share? He plopped down on the couch, his thoughts racing. Maybe he could create a safe space where they could express these feelings without fear. It would take some planning, maybe even a set of guidelines. Trust wouldn't appear by magic, it had to be built brick by brick. His phone buzzed again. It was Lisa, wanting to meet up and discuss their next steps. They settled on a coffee shop, a cozy little place in the heart of town. As he sipped his steaming cup, he couldn't help but feel grateful. She had been his anchor, guiding him through unfamiliar waters. "I'm just thrilled to see them so engaged," Lisa said, her eyes shining. "It's a wonderful start. But can we dig deeper?" David nodded, his thoughts racing again. "We definitely can. I was thinking we could introduce some storytelling sessions. Something where they can express their experiences without any pressure. Just a simple exchange." Lisa clapped her hands softly, excitement bubbling over. "I love that. Storytelling is powerful. We can also give them prompts to help them get started." As they brainstormed various ideas and prompts, David felt a spark of hope ignite inside him. They would create something special, something that could change lives. After deciding on a few compelling topics to kick off the next session, he set his mind to drafting a warm invitation note for the kids, one that would encourage participation without pushing too hard. That night, David sat at his kitchen table, the note forming in his mind as he jotted down words. He wanted it to feel personal, inviting. He wrote about the importance of sharing their stories, how every experience was valid, and how they would be walking this journey together. As he sealed the envelope, a sense of purpose washed over him. Words mattered. They had power. The next day, he arrived at the community center early, eager to hand out the notes. He spread them out on a table at the entrance like treasures waiting to be discovered. The kids poured into the space, and a few paused to eye the colorful envelopes, curiosity glinting in their eyes. "What's that?" asked Danny, his fingers itching to grab one. "It's a special invitation for you guys." David beamed. "We're diving deeper, talking about stories, challenges, and everything in between. I think you'll really like it." He watched as the kids gathered around, their eyes sparkling with intrigue. One by one, they picked up the envelopes, fumbling into them, while whispers of interest floated through the air like butterfly wings. The atmosphere crackled with new energy. Yet, as David prepared for the session, a shadow of worry crept back in. What if the stories weren't easy to share? What if some kids had experiences that were too heavy? But he had to trust their resilience, and more importantly, the trust they were building together. As he stood at the front of the room, watching each child settle into their seats, a question loomed in his mind. Would this session truly bring about a transformative shift for them? Or would it unveil pains that none of them were ready to confront? Just then, a heavy silence fell over the room, and one of the boys raised his hand. "David, can we really share anything? Even the hard stuff?" The weight of the question hung in the air, and David's heart raced. This was more than just an icebreaker now, this was the moment that could define everything. How would he respond? David took a deep breath, glancing at the faces before him. The room was charged with anticipation, each child hanging on his words. He could see worry, curiosity, and even fear reflected in their eyes. He leaned forward, letting the silence stretch a moment longer, feeling the gravity of what was about to unfold. "That's a great question, buddy," David finally replied, his voice steady but warm. "This space is yours. What we share here, stays here. And yes, you can talk about the hard stuff. It's okay to feel heavy sometimes. What matters is that you're not alone." A few nods rippled through the room, and he felt a wave of relief wash over him. Maybe they understood, or maybe they needed to hear that permission to break the ice. He sensed some tension in the air ease, but he could also feel the weight of unspoken stories lurking in the shadows. As he began to lay out the ground rules for their storytelling sessions, he noticed Emma, a usually quiet girl at the back, biting her lip. A mix of fear and determination flickered across her face. David signaled for her to speak. "What if my story is too ugly?" she whispered, her voice barely piercing through the silence. David felt the intensity of her vulnerability settle in the space. "Emma, your story matters because it's yours. Every experience shapes who we are. And sometimes the ugliness can lead to the most beautiful moments of growth." Emma nodded slowly, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. The honesty in his words seemed to crack something open within her, a small step to sharing what lay at the heart of her struggles. As they transitioned into the storytelling, kids began to share snippets of their lives, like tiny threads weaving together a bigger tapestry of their experiences. Some stories were heartfelt, laughter bubbling up as they recounted silly moments. Others, however, brushed against deeper emotions, leaving a thick silence behind. David witnessed joy intermingled with sorrow, tales of disconnect, loss, and moments that made them question everything. Before long, the hour flew by, and David could see the change even between the short spans of time. A hesitant openness grew amongst them. Laughter peppered the air as they connected through shared experiences. The children were feeding off each other's courage, slowly gathering the strength they didn't know they possessed. Midway through the session, a soft voice interrupted, "I never thought this would feel good. I usually keep everything inside." Talking helps. David smiled at Maya, the shy girl who had just found her voice. It was moments like this that reminded him why they were there, to break down walls and build bridges. "Exactly," he said, encouraging her with a warm nod. "This is just the beginning. Imagine how powerful it will be when we all feel this freedom to share." As the session wrapped up, David noticed a change in them. They were smiling widely, some even joking, the shadows from earlier dissipating like clouds breaking apart after a storm, but beneath it all, he felt an unease. Something told him this newfound openness might bring forth some challenges. There were stories still trapped inside, ready to rush out when the dam finally broke. "Before we finish, I want you all to take this energy into next week," he encouraged them. "Think about what you're willing to share. Be brave enough to uncover what lies beneath. And remember, I'm here for every part of it, light or dark." As they walked out, laughter and chatter echoed behind them, but David felt that weight returning, that familiar tightening in his chest. He knew deep down that this journey was about to open doors that might lead to both healing and pain. What story would surface next? And more importantly, who would be brave enough to share it? The following week dawned bright and promising, the sun spilling golden light across the playground. David arrived early, his anticipation mingling with apprehension. He could hardly shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. As the children shuffled into the room, their chatter buzzed like a hive. David wanted to catch their attention, to hold their excitement without letting it overwhelm the sincerity of their shared space. He smiled, gesturing them to sit in a circle. "Good morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling today?" he asked, his eyes searching their faces. "Good," came a chorus of responses, but David could sense an underlying current. It was different charged. "Last week was so awesome," Maya said, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "I thought about my story all week. I think I'm ready to share." David's heart palpitated with joy. He had sensed her readiness blooming like a flower. "That's amazing, Maya. Would you like to go first?" As Maya took a deep breath and began to speak about her struggles with feeling left out, David felt a collective focus. The laughter and whispers dimmed to a steady silence, and each child leaned in, absorbing her words. She spoke of lunchtime alone, hoping to be invited to play, and how the weight of loneliness had sometimes felt too heavy to lift. When she finished, a small, genuine applause erupted, and Maya's face lit up, a flush of pride sharing space with her unfamiliar vulnerability. David saw the spark in her eyes, a beacon of bravery, and he turned to the kids. "And that, my friends, is exactly what this is about. Honoring each other's stories," he said, casting a glance around the circle. "Who's next?" Emma raised her hand tentatively. I think I want to share too." A wave of encouragement washed over the room. "You've got this, Emma," David assured her, and she smiled shyly as she began to recount a time she had an argument with her best friend. As she spoke of hurtful words and tears, David felt the emotions intensify. It was a raw moment. Children were nodding, showing empathy. They knew these feelings of pain, betrayal, and ultimately, acceptance. It was like they were peeling layers off their hearts, revealing the soft truths underneath. Once Emma finished, another child jumped in. Then another. Stories started flowing like a river. Tales of first loves, hardest goodbyes, and dreams that felt just out of reach filled the room. Each story resonated, held a mirror to someone else's experience. Yet, David felt a slight tremble in the atmosphere, a heaviness that hinted at the darker secrets still tucked away in some corners. Not all stories were being told, and some kids were having a hard time shaking off their fears. David knew it was his job to uncover thickness that lingered over the air, to coax out those unspoken words. That he broke the circle for a moment, asking a simple question: what is holding you back? Is there something deeper you want to share? Silence stretched thin. Eyes shifted, faces fell, and he saw thoughts swirling. The kids were weighing their traumas, the fear of being judged weighed on some shoulders more heavily than others. Just as he began to prepare words to ease the poised tension, he caught sight of Henry, a boy known for his silence, sitting rigidly in his chair. The usually carefree child was now a storm held together by whispers of trepidation. "Henry," David said gently, "is there something you'd like to share with us?" Henry blinked, uncertainty clear in his eyes. The room held its breath, and something shifted. For a brief moment, David sensed the perfect intersection of anxiety and readiness. He could feel the other children poised, silently supportive, but then, just as quickly, Henry turned away, his lips pressed tightly together. "No, I can't," he finally muttered, his voice quaking. In that moment, David understood. Each kid's journey was unique, and while some were ready to bare their souls, others needed more time, a truth hidden beneath layers of fear. "That's okay, Henry," he said softly. "We're here when you're ready." The energy in the room remained charged, but now a shared connection had formed. It was a moment of collective understanding, the power of empathy hanging in the air like an unspoken promise. David felt a wave of hope wash over him. "Let us carry this bond with us until next week. Think about what you want to share, but remember, there's strength in waiting too." As they wrapped up, that familiar weight of unease crept back in. Not everyone had shared, and now David pondered, what deeper stories lay beneath the surface, just waiting for the right moment to burst forth. What would Henry finally say when the time was right? And who else would summon the courage to unveil their hidden truth? The following week arrived with a crisp morning, the air alive with promise. David stepped into the community center, anticipation thrumming in his veins. Could this be the day more stories would emerge? As the children gathered in their circle, the energy felt different. There was a collective eagerness swirling in the air, an unspoken agreement that today would be transformative. David greeted them, his heart racing with excitement tinged by apprehension. "Good morning, everyone. Who's feeling ready to share their story today?" he asked, his voice bright. "I am," Maya exclaimed, her voice cutting through the buzz. She was blooming with confidence, the joy from last week's acceptance still fresh on her face. "Great. Go ahead," David encouraged, his smile wide. Maya stood up, eyes sparkling, and recounted a powerful moment from last week when she had reached out to another student who was feeling left out. Her bravery in speaking out resonated deeply with everyone, and David felt a swell of pride as he watched her share her experience. As the circle continued, one by one, voices rose, weaving together tales of joy, heartache, and growth. Each story seemed to break the chains that had bound them, like spring rain washing away a long drought. Laughter danced along with gasps of empathy, and David could see smiles brightening previously shadowed faces. Then, just as the connections deepened, he noticed Henry again, silently observing from the corner. His eyes hinted at storms brewing inside, and David felt a tugging in his heart. There was something so profound about the way Henry clung to his silence, it carried weight, a story yearning to be told. "Henry," David said gently, "I want to invite you to share anything you'd like. Remember, this is a safe space." All eyes turned to Henry, and for a brief moment, time stood still. He looked down, fidgeting with his hands. David held his breath, hopeful yet respectful of the boy's hesitations. Slowly, Henry lifted his gaze. I don't think I can talk," he confessed. His voice trembled, but there was something in his expression, an ember of courage beginning to spark. "That's all right, buddy," David replied, heart racing. "You don't have to speak if you're not ready. But remember, we're all here for you when you are." The room held its breath together, and then, unexpectedly, Emma chimed in. "Henry, if you want, you can start by just saying what bothers you most." "I could do that too. I felt scared when I first shared, and still do sometimes." Encouragement rippled through the group, and slowly, other kids began nodding in agreement. David felt the pulse of solidarity, their willingness to support one another lifting the room. "Yeah, Henry. We've all got your back," one boy added. With the air thick with empathy, Henry surprised everyone. "Okay, I'll try," he declared, voice steadying. "I've been bullied for a long time. It makes me feel invisible." His confession trembled in the air, potent and raw, spreading a wave of resonance throughout the group. David felt the room shift, a mix of compassion and understanding drawing closer. Maya leaned forward, her eyes glimmering. "You're not invisible, Henry. You matter to all of us." As the kids rallied around him, David witnessed something remarkable unfold. Henry began to pursue the words he had bottled up inside, his voice growing stronger under the warm embrace of acceptance. He talked about moments that made him feel less than enough and how they had haunted him for so long. David watched as the children reflected on their own experiences, nodding along, and a layer of connection formed in their shared vulnerabilities. Breaking the silence somehow had a magical effect, and for once, they all felt like a team battling against their fears together. Just as they wrapped up, one child bravely declared, "I want to support others, too. I never knew it was okay to feel this way." Cheers erupted, laughter blending with newfound strength, hopes swirling in the air. With that, David felt a wave of emotion and a realization hit him. They were building a foundation, brick by brick, with each story shared, each silence broken. These children, once floating alone, had begun to forge bonds that could withstand even the fiercest storms. As the session came to an end, the walls around Henry's heart slowly thawed, a small but significant victory. David felt a surge of pride for the growth he witnessed in each of them. "Remember," he said, as they prepared to leave, "each story is a thread. Together, they create a tapestry of resilience and community. Never forget, you're not alone." A chorus of acknowledgments filled the room, buoying everyone's spirits. David walked home that night, reflecting on how stories had the potential to heal and transform not just for the kids but for him as well. He was no longer a jobless dad, stuck in despair. He was a guide, a mentor who found purpose through connection. Together, they had taken steps that illuminated their paths ahead, nudging the darkness further away. As he entered their cozy home, an overwhelming joy filled him. Sarah sat at the dining table, her homework spread out around her. She glanced up, concern dancing on her face. "Dad, are you okay? You look different." "I feel different," David chuckled, settling into his chair. "I'm finding purpose through some amazing kids. They're inspiring me, Sarah." Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Can I help? I want to be involved." "Absolutely," he replied, his heart swelling. They would tackle this together, armed with stories of hope. A world of opportunity stretched out before them, and he couldn't wait to embrace the journey ahead. As they shared dinner, the weight of despair faded completely, and laughter filled every crevice of their home once more. Their bond had been reignited, sparking new dreams yet to unfold. Life may not be perfect, but together they had found the strength to rise above their struggles, and that was worth celebrating. Now, incredible transformations awaited them both, and David couldn't help but feel the excitement bubbling inside him for what tomorrow might bring. You need to subscribe now for more inspiring stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts about this ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share.